except for my doctor. She gave me a hug when I came in for my physical.
Did you sterilize yourself afterwards?
Yeah, she was pretty clean. My doctor?
I don't know.
I mean, if my doctor gives me COVID.
She can be pretty dirty when she goes home. I don't know. We don't judge.
Judgment-free zone.
Absolutely. It's why Katie and I are on this show, right? Otherwise, we'd never make a cut anywhere. But we'll filter ourselves.
Yes.
But by that, I mean I will filter myself and she'll do the talking.
Oh, no.
We're excited to be here.
You guys are hilarious. I have to hang out with y'all.
We're
They
here.
are fun. They're a lot of fun, Tracie.
I know. Are you? But the bar's not open. The tasting room's not open
Well,
yet.
correct. So, well, we don't want to cover all the details of our phone call before we start. But,
Oh, that's right. I was just chatting as if we were friends.
The patio's open at the moment. So we're cocktail waitresses the last few days, weeks.
That's great.
That's so cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was, oh, there he is. He moved over.
Okay, go back, Kent. Let me see.
Huh?
Oh, hold on. You're not talking, so I can't see you. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's better.
Oh, wait. So when we talk, we become large on your screen?
On my screen, it's just the way I have it set up. Whoever's talking is the primary person I see.
Oh. And then we all see what you see?
I'm sorry?
Do we all see what you see?
I don't know. What do you see right now?
You.
You?
Oh, well, then I just see you. I don't see me.
Okay, got it.
So I have my screen set up to see whoever's talking at the time.
So if I talk,
there you are.
Oh,
then I should show up, right?
what if we talk at the same time? Does the screen split?
No,
No.
It's trash.
I think it's whoever's loudest.
Oh.
Well, then we got this covered.
Yeah.
I think you do.
You guys don't stand a chance. Hey, so how do people Zoom, what is that called?
Yeah.
Zoom bomb? Is that when they run in like?
Oh, and do those things behind.
Yeah.
Like photo bombing.
Yeah. I think Chris and Jess are going to do like a nude run right in front to like,
No.
is that not going to help with clicks or shares or?
This is kid friendly. This is family friendly.
Plus, I'm not sure, but I think our boss is on.
Comfort nudity or comfort with bodies is important to teach.
Yes.
You, the one who's always saying, you want to pass this?
Taylor and Jake.
This is horrible.
Taylor, were you able to get the slide?
Hey, Kent, I'll buy you a Betty. Do you want to drink one with me?
Yeah, I'm almost done making it. I just need to get one more logo.
Sure.
Okay.
Katie and I will get one.
What time are we going to try to start?
The session or drinking?
I can email you the slide, and maybe if y'all take like a break, you could show it after we start the session.
Okay. Are we going to try to start at like 105, 110?
Well, I think you should have thought that when you designed where these cans were. You know what I'm saying?
Katie has a design complaint apparently.
Well, I was going to hold Betty towards the camera.
We're ready to get started whenever. It depends if you want the slide up first, really.
Hi, everyone.
I guess you're having a little FaceTime with Betty. Huh?
Okay. Kent, are you ready to get started?
Sure.
Tracie, you want me to kick it off just with an intro for SAEW and?
Yes. That would be great.
So thank you everyone for joining us. This is the session part of San Antonio Entrepreneurship Week. This is also our first year doing SAEW online. So thank you for being here. Thank you for bearing with us through this new way of engaging and celebrating entrepreneurs in San Antonio. We've been doing this since 2016. So we really enjoy still having the opportunity to do this, to have the technology to do it, and to be together online. So I also want to thank the Economic Development Department of the City of San Antonio, Live Fund, Open Security, and Trinity University for being our sponsors. They're supporters of our mission, of our vision, and they carry over to small business support, and we really appreciate their support through this and through other programming that we have. So I want to thank the speakers. I know Boyan has been like now in 2 sessions, so way to go. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Tracie, for being here. This is going to be a great conversation. So I will let you start. For the people that are in this session, you can put in your questions in the chat. We are recording the session so you can catch later, but feel free to engage. We're muting everyone that's in the room just for sake of logistics. And then Taylor is going to help us just funnel in the questions that we may have on YouTube streaming, because people can post it on this chat. So thank you, everyone, and I'll kick it off to Tracie.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Super excited about this conversation. If you were watching us a little earlier, we kind of started in advance. So we'll rewind and talk about this year's San Antonio Entrepreneurship Week is focused on resilience. And today we have 2 clients, Dorcol, which is a distiller here in San Antonio, and the Dakota Eastside Icehouse, which is a restaurant and bar on the east side of San Antonio. Both of them have a phenomenal story to tell about the last 90 days of their business. And I think we're going to have some really great conversation about how they helped each other and how they both kept their businesses afloat during what was a very and continues to be uncertain time in San Antonio, in Texas, and in the United States. So, Boyan, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about Dorcol. What's the business?
Sure. Hey, Tracie, thanks for having us. Dorcol started in 2013 as a distillery, and we started distilling Kinsman, which is a brandy. It's a fruit distillate. It plays on a family tradition out of the Balkans, Southeastern Europe, where I'm from. And we've had some really great success in the culinary space with that. A couple of years into it, we introduced our beer brand, High Wheel, and we just celebrated 6th year anniversary in December. So we rolled into 2020 with a ton of excitement of what's to come and plans, and started out a strong first quarter, and then the COVID hit.
And then the COVID hit. I'm gonna pause there because that's going to be the kind of the linchpin for the whole conversation. I want to know a little bit more. I want to know a little bit about Kent's business before we start. So Kent, tell us about your business, who you are, what you do. What's the Dakota Icehouse?
So we opened up in 2018, April of 2018. Excuse me. It's not COVID, I promise. We opened in April of 2018, just in an area that with no other businesses like what we have, really within at least a mile and a half of where we are. Just a community type establishment with beer and food and just a neighborhood feel. I live in the neighborhood. I've been in the neighborhood for 12 years, and it was just something that we were lacking, a meeting place for people. And it's become really, really great. Much like Boyan, we started out 2020 with a really, really great first quarter, and same thing. Just the moment you thought things were looking up, then COVID hit, and it's like, just completely turned everything on its side.
So a neighborhood bar and restaurant and a family-based or at least based on family recipes, distillery, all set for success in 2020. Tell us how, and either one of you can go first. Tell us how COVID impacted your business.
Go ahead, Boyan.
I was hoping you were going to run with it. I was just going to echo everything Kent said. So, we, I don't know the exact dates. I know it was after second Saturday of March. So that would have been the Monday after second. It was the last day of service for us was second Saturday in March. And that Monday morning, we had a plan that, hey, if things go south, everybody just show up at 9 the next day, and we'll find a way to make it work. And Tuesday went by. We're normally closed until Thursday for the public, so there's a ton of production and meetings and marketing and sales happening early in the week. And that Wednesday, Tuesday we showed up to work. That Wednesday we got word that the city council was going to pass the ordinance shutting down and having the order to stay at home. And when the word came down, we worked really hard to sort of mimic what some West Coast states have done, where they recognize breweries, distilleries, and wineries as food supply chain businesses, and in essence, identify them as being essential and able to remain open. And a ton of behind the scenes resulted in a favorable outcome. The ordinance included literally micro distilleries and breweries as essential businesses, and we were able to then sort of breathe a sigh of relief and sort of say, okay, now we can stay open. What does that look like? Right. So Wednesday was a big day in the whole development of COVID impact for us, because it could have just as easily gone the other way, and we would have had nothing to do. We would have just been closed.
So did the city state the ordinance, or was it a state ordinance that allowed you guys to stay open?
It was the city at first. The mayor's, I think it was a city and the county did some kind of a collaborative joint order to shut everything down. And, I think, I can't remember, page 2, bullet 3 or something like that listed. We had to cite it a few times since then. We're right here south of the Development Services building. So we had frequent visits where city staff was verifying that we were indeed deemed essential, because we had employee cars in the front. So I think there's also a train track here. So when people are stopped and seeing activity in the building, they thought maybe it was trying to do some incognito or bootlegging or something. But we were legitimately allowed to remain open, and it was 6 of us here on staff just kind of trying to figure out how to remain relevant and in business.
Okay. Kent, what about you?
So it's a lot of the same things. A big difference though between us and them is that we're considered a restaurant, and so we knew probably a little bit more ahead of time that we were going to be able to remain open. And I say that just because I've been watching really closely what was going on in other cities, and I figured whatever the big cities, New York, LA, those cities were doing, we would follow suit to some degree. So I knew that we were going to be shut down. I just wasn't sure how that was going to work for us. We didn't really have, we didn't have a to-go business before. We did maybe 2 orders a night, maybe. And to just think that we were going to have to switch our whole business to that was a pretty scary thought. But it's what you do. You do what you have to do when you're trying to keep your business going. Like he said, that Wednesday, everything leading up to that, just so you know, Boyan, it was the 13th is when we got the first inkling. It was Friday the 13th. Because it was on the 12th and I thought, man, this is going to be a great spring. Yeah, and then on the 15th, open to hell. And then we were still open on Tuesday night, which was St. Patrick's Day. And then Wednesday, it was all over. You know, we tried to get rid of everything we could on Tuesday night, and then that was it. That was all she wrote. But you know, my main concern, I think Boyan's was probably the same, was just how do I keep my employees, and how do we figure out, you know, how to move forward sustainably for whatever amount of time. And that was the whole problem, was that, you know, every day the rules changed and the situation changed. And, you know, no matter what plan you made on Tuesday, by Wednesday, there was a whole new set of rules. And then, you know, you had to do, the next day you had to come up with something different. And you may have plans A, B, and C, and then none of those were going to work. You had to have D. And so just, you know, I think all of us have learned to, you know, live a little bit more day to day than ever before. I mean, it's so hard to plan ahead, and so scary to order things, and so scary to, everything, because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Yeah. So both of you guys were able to stay open. Both of you were deemed essential. But then I heard you both say, but we have to figure out, what does that mean? Now, I've had the privilege of going to both establishments. So I'm trying to imagine what that looks like for you, Boyan. With my favorite part of your facility is being able to go up to the bar and say, my favorite drink is this. Can you make it for me and make it, you know, fun? And he wanted to put an egg in it, by the way, which I was not really excited about, but it turned out pretty good. So, you know, so what does that change look like? I mean, for Kent, you know, my favorite part of being in your space is sitting down and listening to a band. So you're essential, but what does essential mean? What does that look like? How does it work? Or how has it worked? And how has that changed in the last 90 days?
You know, it's interesting, the way you word it sort of puts in perspective that it's all about moving targets and, you know, what your small victories, how do you celebrate them? And the first one was being able to remain open so that we don't literally have to turn the lights off. The next was figuring out in what capacity can we get product out. And, you know, we kind of got lucky, if, you know, now we count our blessings, right? But last year, the last legislative session authorized beer to go out of breweries. And, you know, unlike brew pubs that could always do it, the 3 breweries in town just got that ability last September 1. So, you know, we canned this novelty Betty can as sort of a, you know, a joke. There's Kent's too. It looks beautiful on you. But the truth was, between September and March, you know, we might have, you know, sold, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so growlers and maybe, you know, a pallet of beer, and that was it. We, you know, we knew the margins on the cans was really tight. We had really no business in our size competing for shelf space at the large retailers. So we sort of, you know, continued to focus on bars and restaurants as our way of reaching guests, both on site at our place and then, you know, at Kent's place. So folks could support us by supporting Kent and drinking High Wheel products that he had on tap. And come that Wednesday, you know, the taps dried up everywhere in the city. You know, in 7 years, you know, you build 100 and something accounts, and then overnight, every single one of them is closed. It's sort of a fascinating, I mean, short of zombies going down South Flores, right? I mean, there's no, you know, Walking Dead isn't kicked in, and, you know, under no circumstance would I thought 100 bars and restaurants were going to close in one night. That doesn't make sense. But, you know, COVID taught us that things that don't make sense sometimes happen. And, you know, the first bit was, how do you get this can into people's hands? And that's sort of where, you know, we started trying to figure out, all right, we've got product, we have folks that want the product, how do we get it to them? And, you know, for somebody who ignored shelf space at retailers, you know, we didn't even put a UPC on a can. I mean, something that costs you nothing, you already print the labels, you already can it, all you needed to do was just put a UPC on it. And, you know, we were, and you can say short-sighted or just couldn't have imagined 100 bars closing in one night, and your only outlet is shelf space to go. And you know, the first couple of weeks were all about, you know, how do you put things in motion that so that the infrastructure is in place to then be able to get the product out. You know, HEB being able to put us on the shelf. You know, Kent's decided to remain open so that folks can walk in and pick up beer to go, and then us getting cans into Kent's hands. Those are the things that, you know, the first couple of weeks was, you know, turning the bandwidth on social media in not pushing our space because it was closed, but instead pushing the product out of other people's spaces. You know, it's sort of every piece of social media was directed at, hey, go here, pick up our beer kind of thing, and take it home, pair it with a meal, or you know, with a takeout order for the family, that kind of stuff.
So you were really co-marketing at that point, right, Boyan? So you had to start co-marketing. So
yeah, we've always, you know, we've always been in that space where the chefs and bartenders were our sort of gateway to the guests.
Mhm.
It's just this time around, that was the only gateway to the guests. So, you know, Jessica running with literally across town, identifying who all carries the product, you know, how can we put it into family pack deals? You know, how do we get it packed up or paired up with something that the restaurant is doing? And then, you know, how do we increase the ticket at an account, right? You know, you can sell a $10 burger, but then, you know, why not sell a $10 burger and a six pack for 20 kind of thing? And,
right.
and that was really where the creativity happened, is how do you create the density on the check, and then how do you get more product into people's hands?
And now people listening that are small business owners might be saying, and you just won the HEB with a can, a six pack with no UPC label on it. That doesn't happen anymore.
That never happened.
Katie said it didn't happen.
They would have had us arrested if we rolled into an HEB with just a six pack in hand. But you know, the benefit was that the Betty, or our beer, was very much liked in the community to begin with. I mean, Kent had 2 or 3 taps of High Wheel beer on since when he opened, and that kind of support, you know, paved the way for when the pivot needed. It was, the relationship existed. HEB has 5 restaurant outlets through the South Flow Pizza concept that, you know, we were the house beer at, you know, for the past year or so. So the stores, the buyers, you know, the infrastructure, the system itself had Dorcol as a vendor. The Betty had a code. It just needed to change from being a keg to being a can. And then a ton of generosity on their part resulted in them, you know, approving labels and UPCs within a day's work instead of within, you know, 30 days. So it really took, you know, moving mountains to sort of, you know, be able to then deliver the following Monday. You know, things that, you know, they were looking to identify suppliers for toilet paper and paper towels and not add beer vendors, but we got lucky because we've been a beer vendor, just not on the retail shelf. It was on the on-premise shelf, you know. So there's definitely a little bit of luck that was just happened, that those relationships existed, and when we needed to call on them, you know, folks responded.
Okay. All right. I like it. Kent, what does it mean to be essential? What does that mean, and how have you had to pivot?
Well, it's meant delving into the grocery area, which is really, really strange when that's not a business you want to be in or ever thought about being in. You know, we ended up putting shelves here in the dining room, essentially getting rid of our dining room and carrying things that you couldn't get elsewhere because we had access to you know, different distributors and places where we could get some of the things that you weren't able to get in grocery stores, toilet paper, paper towels, that sort of thing, beans, rice. I can't even think all the things that we sold, bread. You know, we had this like basic staple things that were really hard to get in the grocery store. But we just tried to become that for the neighborhood, in a place where you could come and not have to go to HEB. You could come in here and actually, you know, place your order on the phone or online, and we'll just take it out and put it in your trunk, and you didn't have to touch anybody or, even expose yourself to anything. Or the long lines. I know people who tried to do the HEB curbside pickup. You would get a date a week and a half from when you were placing your order when you could go pick it up. And that didn't help if you need toilet paper. You're not going to wait a week and a half. So we just tried to become that, for people. And like Boyan was saying, the ability to get Betty back in cans was a huge thing for us because it's our top selling beer. And so to be able to offer that along with family deals and different type of specials definitely made a difference for us. Just to be able to pair those two things together.
How'd you get the word out? How would I have known that there was toilet paper to be found at the Dakota?
Just had to, we had it on our sign out front, and then of course through social media and that sort of thing. Just trying to get it out in different networks. With so many places so many places closing down, there wasn't a lot of social media going out for anyone. Those of us, few of us that were still open, we could kind of flood the whole thing with advertisements and things for what we had going on because there was so little that you saw from anyone else. I was really surprised at how, at the response. Like I said, we had no to-go business before. And then that's what sustained us for those 3 months, every day, which was hard for me to believe that would have happened like that.
So I want to ask about how you guys were able to sustain, like that this sustained your business and allowed you to keep your doors open and continue to pay your employees. But I have a quick marketing question, and that is for both of you. Did you leverage the media when there was no one out there to do brand building, or do you feel like the things that you were doing to build and to maintain the business at the time were also building the brand and your stake in the community?
I think both. I think it's a little bit of both. Those of us who were able to stay open the entire time, people remember that, and people remember, there's so many places that I saw that closed initially, and then came back a month later and tried to reopen, and people had already forgotten about them. They'd already, in their mind, had decided that those places were closed, which is unfortunate. But I think a lot of it also has to do with people that are loyal to the brands, loyal to Dorcol and to High Wheel, and loyal to us. Those customers, that loyalty really helped. Otherwise you're just, if you don't have that brand loyalty, whether it's to a restaurant or to a product, that was the sustainable thing, I think, definitely for us.
Mm-hmm. And then I heard that neither one of you laid off any of your full-time workers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And where did you, I know I helped tons of people with EIDL loans and PPP loans and the grants. Were you guys leveraging all those resources or just using the sales to help keep your business afloat during that time?
Do you want to go, Boyan?
Sure. Yeah. We did two things. Our initial concern was we couldn't afford to get into debt to try to remain open. So the original funding avenues were things that we steered clear of. We made a commitment that Monday before the closures to everyone that we were going to figure out how to make it work. So everybody knew that at least the job was not something they needed to stress over. There was enough, there was enough insecurities and unpredictability out there that we thought, a paycheck on the 1st and the 15th shouldn't be it. And then we really, laid deep on our sort of dependence on, Crystal Darby is on the call. I must have had a couple of dozen text exchanges, phone calls, and just understanding what some of the red tape really meant and how it would play out long term. And that was instrumental. We we applied for the PPP initially. We on that second round, I think we were with Chase, and they're a large bank, and the incentives were for larger loans, and as a smaller employer, I think the size of a loan just wasn't sexy enough for a lender of that size.
Yeah.
And then the problem was that some of the smaller lenders, were really, almost using the opportunity to try to sell their other services as a way to become eligible for funding, which for us was, if you can guarantee the PPP, then yeah, we'll consider moving the rest of the banking piece with it. But, it was kind of like the hook and the chicken and the egg thing. So, it turned out that Lift Fund, on our very original financing in 2013, they were the connection through the SBA on a 504 loan. So, we reached out to our lender there, Bob, and we said, look, I'm sure you don't want to be in a position of calling in loans, so help us figure out, how to spread the pain. And he told me that there would be another round of PPP stuff, and that they were streamlining their process of how to apply. And we might have been the very last space in San Antonio to get PPP on that. I think it was a few weeks ago, the news came in. So, everybody on staff got a couple of days paid leave to kind of decompress, and we shared in on it. So, we originally, that Monday, the 13th or whatever we said earlier, no, 13th was a Friday. So the 16th, Monday the 16th was, we kind of set December 31 balance sheet to be where our threshold was. And we started out really great, January, February, first half of March. And, we just thought, well, when we eat it up, we'll reconvene and start figuring out what does the rest of 2020 look. And, obviously that PPP bought us some more time and sort of pushed back, any difficult decisions or discussions for sometime in the future.
Awesome. But now we're open again. Oh, I'm sorry. Can't go ahead.
No, I was going to say it was much the same thing with us. It was that second round where we also were able to get the PPP monies, and that, that's definitely what kept us going to the point where we could open up, open up as we are now. before that, you could see the end coming near if that money didn't come through. It was a little sigh of relief just to get that in, because otherwise, like Boyan said, there was some really hard decisions that were about to have to be made. That's really it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
It's just,
no.
That looming over you is not the things that we've all had looming over us. Paired with that was just it was a lot. So it gave a little bit of relief. Like you said, everybody needed a couple of days just to
decompress,
kind of breathe a second. We closed one. We only closed one day during this entire thing, which was Easter Sunday, and that was just to go sleep. That was the only thing. I said, everybody go home. We're going to sleep today. And we'll come back Monday and start over.
Eddie and I went to service at St. Henry's that Sunday.
So wait, are you guys saying, Kent, am I hearing you say that you've worked harder in the last 90 days than you normally do running a bar and restaurant?
Yes and no, differently. It's been different. It's been different harder. It's harder because everything you're doing is nothing you would normally do. So it's that paired with the stress of like I said, everything looming, catching the disease, one of your employees catching the disease, money, all that paired with all the normal, day-to-day things, it may not be more, but it seems like more. Let's just say that.
Okay. Dorcol, what about you? Are you guys working harder? Have you worked harder?
I mean, Katie and I have been on vacation the last 90 days. Let's say for real, it's just a breeze. Now, what's really hard, I think, is that you work in order to get the framework in place, the infrastructure to remain open in this new atmosphere. and you see your margins shrink, I think the stress and the amount of work becomes more heavier load to carry. And you know, it's, you know, we know that a $5 beer comes with a couple of dollar price. You get $3 margin. You know, you use that to offset the rest of your overhead and expenses. You know, when you sell a 6-pack for 10, and then you paid a vendor to can and the labels on it, and you know the state's cut didn't reduce. You know, you get a you work that much more to try to get that same revenue while having a margin only a fraction of it. I think that's where, you know, Kent probably saw a loaf of bread brings in a whole lot less revenue and profit than a burger, you know, and you know, a pint of beer does a whole lot better than a 6-pack to go. But, you know, a lot of the costs under, you know, the last 90 days were sort of understood to be fixed. So then any revenue would help offset and help the balance sheet. So that's really the, you know, did you work harder? And the answer is absolutely yes. Did you work harder for less? You know, I've never worked harder for less in my life. You know, you sort of wish you were doing something else entirely, but you know, you're so deep into something and you've got, you know, you depend on it and others depend on you, then you don't have a choice but to figure it out.
Yeah. So I guess my question was going to be to you guys, was it worth it? And I think I know the answer.
Well, we're all here, and and we continue to be committed to one another and the cause, right? I think, you know, there should be some return to some future normalcy that's hopefully better than the last 90 days. And
yeah,
you know, if it does, then absolutely it's worth it. You know, if it doesn't, then we got bigger problems.
Tell me this, how has, and Katie, I'm gonna pull on you because I know that you work directly with Boyan. You're his rep, right, for the distillery. How, based on what you guys have learned, what will you do different in your partnership with the Dakota and all the other small local San Antonio businesses? I know you'll probably do some things differently with HEB and some of your bigger clients, but with your local small clients, what's going to be different or new?
Well, I think that one of the things that we focused on, rather than like, you know, oh, we can open now, let's get ourselves open, was to really support our accounts and do whatever we could do to help them open up right. And it started by helping them close down right, you know, with their tax and their beer and saving stuff. But then going back to that, so the whole notion of the best thing about this business is relationships. Totally has been reconfirmed, you know? So through this, we were given an opportunity to focus on the accounts, help them come up with stuff. I remember when I first brought the 6-pack idea to Kent. I mean, it would be difficult to bring a new notion to people because there's already in their mind so many things going on. But, you know, luckily enough, we have the kind of relationship with our accounts that they know about how much we care about things, how much we, you know, we don't just drop the beer off, and if it doesn't taste right in their system, they bought it, whatever, that's not us, you know. I maybe taste a beer and I'll text Randy, go, maybe it's my palate, but, you know, and he's right there within like 12 hours, you know. So we had an opportunity to really show off what we do, and that is part of the hospitality business, you know. And I think that that's been reinforced to all of us.
I love it.
And I think that's happened with everyone who, I think that those of us in the small business community have really kind of bonded over this whole thing. You know, it's been something where people have been given a chance to really shine, and you see which relationships are important. You know, which are the ones you can count on, and which are the ones who have your back. And I mean, it's been really something to see. Because you don't really expect that, because you don't know how anybody's going to react during something like this, because you're so focused on trying to keep your head above water. It's just it's great to see people come together like they have in the last 3 months. Even the things like I've done with you, Tracie. You know, You came and helped that day when we were doing the fruit and vegetable boxes. Something I never imagined to be doing that either. But I formed a relationship with you now, and now we can move forward doing other things together, which I think is really important about all of us with these small businesses working together to help make each other stronger. And that's definitely, Katie's always honest about making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, even though she didn't work for us. But she's honest, and that's good, and I like that.
Well, if we have to do well together to be great together, or
Right, exactly.
Ken, it's not often we get to, and it's, when everything is humming and going along, we never have the time to sit down and even visit in person, because there's guests to deal with and a business to run. And but one of the things that's incredibly rewarding is that we get tagged or we get texted pictures of people buying our product at your place or drinking it at home, having picked that up at your place, knowing that we're closed that day or it's out of our hours. And it's folks really knowing that there's two small businesses to support in one transaction when they get to, go to your place and buy our product. And I think that's the, that community component is beyond pity purchases in the first week or two, really sort of reiterated. I mean, Katie is your neighbor, literally, physically, she lives in your neighborhood. Right. We have a ton of cross-pollinating in consumers that come to Dorcol and have drinks and then go to Dakota that night and continue to have dinner and drinks. So I think that's where the whole circle, sort of is complete, is that, good people supporting good people and good businesses is I think what's going to keep us in business.
I love it.
Definitely. To the guests when they saw that there was a partnership between two businesses that made things come to them in a more meaningful way. Yep. So I think there was a lot of opportunity there to build some more loyalty from the customer base on set.
Right.
Yeah. So what have you guys? What would you say you learned in the last 90 days? I made some notes about what I heard from you, and what are you going to keep as you move forward? So the last time I was in, well, maybe not the last time, but when I was early on in Kent's restaurant, there were gondolas, there was toilet paper and paper towels and bags of beans and coffee. And we were putting food boxes in the backs of people's cars. But now we can open again, right? What are the lessons learned? What are the things that you did during this downtime? I know in my business, we did super cleaning, right? So what are those things you did during the downtime? What are the lessons learned? And what will you keep as you go forward, kind of post-COVID?
I think that the biggest thing that I've learned through this is just flexibility. It doesn't hurt to be flexible. I mean, that doesn't always work for everyone, but when you have so little options, throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, because that was absolutely what we did. We besides the staples, I reached out to the community of people that were, would normally do markets and shows and that sort of thing, and just said, hey, if you have products you want to sell, bring them down here and we'll try and sell them, and we'll put them on our website and try and sell them there too. And so we ended up selling candles and jams and jellies and peanuts, and I mean anything. I decided, why not? Why not offer all these things? And people loved it. Some of those things we'll keep. I mean, I'm probably not going to sell toilet paper forever, but but I might sell some spicy beer nuts and some jam. It doesn't hurt to have some of those things, and keep some of those. And definitely we'll keep the to-go element. We were able to get our online ordering and that sort of thing on pretty quickly. And that made all the difference in the world. Once people didn't have to wait on the phone for somebody to take their order, nobody wants to talk to anybody in the world anymore when they're ordering food. They just want to be able to push a couple of buttons and it'd be ready when they get there. And so being able to do that really changed our whole to-go element. And that's really, that's what kept us going. We were able to do 20 orders a night versus the 2 that we did before. So, my goal every week was just to try and have the same amount of money in the bank that we did at the beginning of the week. And if we could do that, then it was a win. That was all I was trying to do once we paid everyone and that sort of thing. But I think that's just the things I learned was just flexibility and being willing to try anything. It won't hurt. It won't hurt.
Won't hurt. Yeah. Boyan?
We discovered a group texting service that lets us take orders to go via a text message. And in today's world, I think people text all the time anyway. Why not text in their to-go orders? And those have turned out to be very successful because it opens up a mode of communication that's convenient for the consumer at their sort of leisure. And we're able to still maintain conversation and touch them with some hospitality, even if it's not in person, if you will. So I think that's definitely an element that will remain. I think the idea, we had to brew less beer, but get it more creative. I think that's an interesting piece that I think will stay with us. We swapped out a 64-ounce growler into a 750 ml bomber, and we had our first release in collaboration with Weathered Souls and their Black and Beautiful initiative that sold out in the I think in the same afternoon. So there's some things that we learned about how flexible we can be individually and as a team. And I think that'll continue on. Exploring the relationships or strengthening the to-go relationships with our retailers will be a natural. There's no reason for that part of the business to go backwards. So I think a lot of that will be driven by consumer preferences and the number of accounts and their licensing, and there's some loosening from the state on some of the enforcement things. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like, post COVID, whenever that happens.
Okay. I love it. Well, we've been talking for about 45 minutes. So I've been authorized a 2-minute break. So we'll take a 2-minute pause. We'll come back and answer any questions that we have in the chat. So if you guys have questions, please go ahead and put those. I think we're on YouTube Live, so you can put those in the comment section. They'll get them back over to us, or in the chat box if you are on our Zoom call. We'll answer those questions and we'll wrap up. We'll be back in a sec.
Goodness.
Okay, so we had a 2-minute break, and I am back. This is Tracie Shelton. I am just want to come back and see if we had any questions. I'm gonna ask Jay Taylor. Do we have any questions that we need to answer?
No one's put any in the chat as of right now.
Okay. So I want to do a couple of things. I want to take this time to say thank you to our guests, to Kent and Katie and Dorcol. We appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, sharing some of the heartache that got you to hopefully what's going to be a great time as we go back into full reopening. And I want to give, I work with Kent, and so a shameless plug, he really is committed to and connected within his community. He's being very humble as he talks about what he's done, but he was helping me lift food boxes that we were giving away to people who did not have food. And so he's definitely rooted in the community. What I heard you guys say over the last 50 minutes or so is that the way that you become resilient is that you are early and often creating partnerships, building relationships, managing with flexibility, and focus on the community. That's what I heard from the three of you as you talked about how you were able to make it through. You were adaptable, and you just gave it the old try, and there was nothing to lose, right? And so I appreciate your stick-to-itiveness and the passion, and that everyone talked about the last 90 days was really, really hard, but you would totally do it again because you have a passion for what you do and for the people that you serve. So I very, very much appreciate that. I want to, before we close, I'm going to ask both Kent and Boyan and Katie to give us kind of some advice that they would give any entrepreneur either in their industry or outside of their industry. But I want to also let the people that are in San Antonio know that if you have not applied for the PPP, which stands for the Payroll Protection Program, and you have a business, even if you're a solopreneur, it closes, I think, on June 30th is when they'll stop taking applications. So that money is there and it is forgivable, assuming that you meet the guidelines. Also, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL, which is directly through the SBA. You apply online through the SBA. That portal has opened back up and it's for all businesses now. So if you did not apply the first time, now is a great opportunity to do that. If you own a small business and you want some support, you want someone who will walk you through it. Boyan talked about Crystal Darby, who's on the call. There are lots of people like Crystal. Well, there's no one like Crystal, but
Good catch.
right.
Slip up.
Right. But UTSA and the SBDC has business advisors that are there to support you through your business. And there are SBDCs throughout the country. So whether you're in Texas or somewhere else, just Google SBDC for your city or your state and it'll come up. If you're in San Antonio, though, we encourage and invite you to call the UTSA SBDC, and Janie, who's amazing, will get you in touch with a business advisor that will support you, and it's paid for by your tax dollars. So please leverage those resources, and we can always help point you in the right direction. So the PPP is out there, the EIDL loan is out there, UTSA has small business services available. Launch SA, who's hosting this, also has small business advisors that are available. Boyan mentioned Lift Fund, and that's who they got their PPP through if you're in Bexar County, through Bexar County, in conjunction with Lift Fund, they are giving away grants, money you don't have to pay back. Tomorrow is the last day to apply for those grants, up to $25,000 for a business. So Kent, Boyan, if you haven't applied for that, I want you to get on it. So there's lots of resources out there. And we just learned from these amazing individuals that we make it through by making it through with each other. Partnerships, relationships, flexibility, and community. And I'm going to ask them to give us, final pieces of wisdom, the thing that you
We
learned.
have, sorry,
Wait,
Tracy.
Yeah.
We did have Richard raise his hand, so I don't know if I unmuted him. If you want to go ahead, Richard, and
Yes,
have a
Tracy, what's the phone number? How do you get in contact with the SBDC?
That's an excellent question, Richard. The number is 210-458-2460. 210-458-2460. Or you can go to SAEW.org. And if you scroll down, there's a training option as well as a have an advisor option. And I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Also in the chat, we have the survey, so please give us feedback. I want to thank SBDC again for being a partner with SAEW, UTSA. They're a partner since we started, so thank you so much. And I don't know if Boyan and Ken want to add anything. How can our community who's watching or listening can reach you, or how can they engage with you and your business?
Boyan, you go first.
Okay. You know, I think the easy way to respond is if you're committed to it, you don't let it, you know, enough so that the pandemic doesn't interfere with you and your goal, then you should definitely pursue, you know, whatever enterprise you're looking to get into. You know, things are difficult to begin with, and when difficult times add complexity, then the only reason you'll want to get up and continue doing it is because you're that committed and that passionate about your team and your joint you know, commitment to success. But aside from that, I think turning to the resources that are available is imperative. You can't know answers to everything, so knowing that there are trusting folks out there that have answers to questions you have is key. And for us, that was Crystal and Ryan and his team have supported our efforts on a number of things, you know, not just during the pandemic, but prior to, you know, and then folks obviously like Bob over at Lift Fund who understand financing, and that's the work they do all day, every day. And, you know, knowing how to prepare yourself for when you need it in the future is key, because, you know, you can't predict, you know, you can't predict the future. We've tried and we've put things in motion that we thought would put us in a good position, and then something, you know, out of another planet shows up and, you know, affects your day to day. And, you know, it's being able to be flexible and pivot that ends up saving the day. So, you know, best of luck to all. And, you know, we'll continue to be here on South Flores.
What's your address, Boyan?
It's 1902 South Flores. We're just south of downtown in the near south side area of San Antonio.
And is the tasting room open yet?
Our patio is, the indoor ordering is not. So we'll service the guests on the patio and then to go. And we'll be sure that, you know, your favorite restaurants and bars are supplied with our product. So, you know, we appreciate that support.
And my favorite bar restaurant is the Dakota. So Kent, give us some closing thoughts and then tell us where you're located. You're on mute, Kent. You're on mute. Oh, mute. Okay, go.
You didn't miss anything. Boyan's such a better speaker than I am. I mean, I just want to, you know, reiterate kind of what he said. You know, if you have the passion to do it, and in this climate are still, you know, think you're resilient enough to move forward with whatever it is you're trying to do. You know, there's people out there to support you. They'll particularly through like Launch Us SA and those groups. There's so much good information and such good people willing to help you navigate some of these things that you don't see coming. I don't know what else to say.
So are you open for dine-in? Are you open for dine-in yet?
Dine-in, no. We're only our patio is open. During the months of COVID, we also opened up our backyard, which we did not have before. So it's a pretty big space behind the building. So we have tables out there, all spread out and nice, and that's been really, really great. And we are doing live music again, which not a lot of places are doing. And let me tell you, music is healing, and it feels so good to hear that live music again. We're doing it on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from 7 to 9. We're doing it early, so not too many people will show up. Let me tell you, it goes against everything when you're trying to get just enough people in the building and not anything more than that. It's really, really a tough way to promote things, because you don't want too many people here. You want just enough.
Just 75%.
Yeah. Well, we're not really bound by that outside, but you still have to maintain the distance from each other. So that's the whole thing, is making sure that people have a spot to sit down, and they aren't wandering around breathing on everybody. People are wearing masks. And that's that's another thing that's just coming up next week is the county is placing that policing on us as business owners now, which is going to be interesting. But hopefully it won't be as hard to navigate as I have imagined in my head. People have been pretty responsive up to this point. It did get a little bit harder once some of the bigger stores stopped enforcing that rule. But hopefully people will be committed to public safety and thinking about others a little bit more than themselves. Because that's kind of what we're in all this for right now, is just trying to keep each other alive, so we'll be able to support each other.
So we'll keep this supporting each other. Where are you located, Kent?
433 South Hackberry, just east of the Alamo Dome.
East of the Alamo Dome. Okay, so Hackberry and Dakota.
Hackberry and Dakota. Yes,
Hackberry
ma'am.
and Dakota. I appreciate everyone joining us. Thank you, Launch SA, for allowing us to have this conversation during San Antonio Entrepreneurship Week. The key things that came out of it were the way we become and sustain our resilience is that we build in time where we don't need. We build our partnerships, our relationships, we manage with flexibility, and we always focus on the community. And by doing those things, we saw that these two businesses were not only able to maintain themselves, but support and maintain one another. And so they're a great example of how the community can help build on itself and sustain and maintain itself. And so I want to say thank you to the three of you and best of luck in your businesses. And Kent, I guess I'll see you Friday night for music. And then Boyan, I guess I got to come to the patio.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for including us. And then don't forget, when you swing by Kent's on Friday, pick up a Betty.
A Betty.
It'll go great with that live show.
Excellent.
Sure, for sure.
Thank you.
And I promise I'll have some.
You'll have some.
Thank you, Kent.
So let me ask you this, because that's one of the questions I was going to ask you guys. Revenue streams that you're going to keep. Are you going to keep cans?
I think what we're going to find a way is to support the accounts that are going to be doing to go with cans without cannibalizing the draft piece of business. We don't have the scales to make cans a business model on its own. They worked out really great to diversify the revenue stream when there was no taps. But there's some of our friends in the industry had furlough 75% of their employees because there's just not enough margin without the heavy volumes, and that's a rabbit hole we can't chase ourselves into. So I think it's establishing those relationships with Kent and the likes to sort of delineate, what's being canned to go, and then how do we get folks to buy draft beer? It's fresh, it tastes better, it's a better margin for everybody. It goes along with being at a bar. So.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And we're planning on going back to draft for the next 2 weeks. So.
We'll have fresh beer for you. We're brewing it. We're brewing it as we speak.
I hear it in the background.
It's making noises. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Daniela in case they have some announcements they'd like to share.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracie. Thank you, Boyan, Kent, and Katie for being here. I appreciate your time and just you sharing your perspective. I know this is a hard time and every minute counts. So thank you for that. And I just want to remind everyone that we have the survey. And if you have any other questions or would like to reach out to Launch SA, you can do so through our website. We do have COVID services listed there for small business owners, or if you want to start a business or need other resources for your business, you can go to our website, launchsa.org. And we'll still have one more day to go for SAW. So make sure to check out the last day sessions. There's going to be the vendor orientation, which is usually the event that the city hosts, the small business office hosts for small businesses. So if you're interested in learning about the resources that the city has and other sessions that we're going to have, please go to the event page, which is saw.org. And thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.